everybody. Welcome back to Drop Dead Serious. Glad you're here. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. Today in the Karen Read trial, we took a sharp turn into digital forensics and into a courtroom tug-of-war over the credibility of a witness. But it wasn't just what that expert said for the prosecution. It was whether the jury should believe how the expert got there. Day 11 was all about one key witness, Jessica Hyde, a digital forensics examiner with years of experience in cyber crime investigations. And despite her credentials, the defense clearly does not trust her methods. And maybe it just might have something to do with the fact that she says Jen McCabe's 2:27 a.m. Google search, "How long to die in the cold?" never even happened. And today, Karen's defense team went on the attack, so let's just jump right in. We started the morning with Massachusetts State Trooper Connor Keefe. He told jurors that he helped process the scene at 34 Fairview Road and was the officer who bagged the evidence from the snowy front yard where John O'Keefe was found. In court, he unsealed a pair of evidence bags, and inside those bags, a black Nike sneaker and broken taillight pieces, all of which were recovered near O'Keefe's body. Then it was time for the main event. Before forensic examiner Jessica Hyde could even take the stand, Judge Cannoni had to pause everything, giving both sides time to argue about her qualifications and her methodology. The defense was especially fired up, not just about her findings in this case, but because of a prior ruling in Maryland where a judge found her and her methods unreliable and inadmissible. That was in a separate digital evidence case. The prosecutor, Hank Brennan, pushed back hard, calling it an attempt to malign a witness. And he accused the defense of dehumanizing her and, quote, trying to cheapen her testimony. In the end, Judge Cannoni ruled that the jury would not hear about the Maryland case, even though the defense could ask about her methodology. And you can just put this one in the column of things that make Karen Read's supporters angry. And not just angry, but also convinced that there's a cover-up going on and that officials are trying to frame Karen Read. So then in came Jessica Hyde, and she walked the jury through her analysis of Jen McCabe's phone, including the now infamous misspelled search, "Hoss long to die in the cold." How long to die in the cold? Yes, that search is associated with a 2:27 a.m. timestamp, but Jessica Hyde says that is not when the search was made. According to Hyde, 2:27 a.m. was just when the tab was opened, not when the words were actually typed. And she gave the jury a warning.
Absolutely. There's a really scary danger that an examiner who has not dug into the artifact and tested to see what it means may assume erroneously that that 2:27 timestamp is the time that what is there is searched. The search in that field of that artifact is going to always be the most recent search in the tab, but that timestamp actually means either the time that that tab was backgrounded or if it's the first time the tab's been opened, when it was opened. So you could erroneously implicate a search was done hours or some time period or even days before it actually occurred. Some of us leave our tabs open forever.
Her bottom line? The actual Google search, "Hoss long to die in the cold," was made at 6:24 a.m., a.k.a. roughly the same time that O'Keefe was discovered outside, and the exact time that Jen McCabe says she made the search at Karen Read's request. That also lines up with what Ian Whifflin told the jury earlier in the case. Remember, he's the other tech expert for the prosecution. He even gave a live demo showing how timestamps can be misread if you don't know how cell phone internet browsers work. So now the Commonwealth got two experts into this courtroom to tell the jury that the search came after John O'Keefe was found. But the defense was not about to let this sit. Enter Karen's defense lawyer, Bob Alessi. Bob Alessi pointed out that Ms. Hyde's report initially said that John O'Keefe's phone was last used at 12:20 a.m. But Whifflin's analysis and actual device data showed the lock button was pressed at 12:32 a.m. That's a bit of a span of time. Jessica Hyde admitted that she hadn't reviewed that when she wrote her report. But then she clarified, yes, her own findings do reflect that 12:32 was the time of the final movement. So, okay. Then Karen's lawyer, Alessi, hit her hard on procedures. Jessica Hyde explained that the gold standard for phone extraction is airplane mode, Faraday bags, and isolation protocols. And she admitted those were not followed by law enforcement in this case. Still, she insisted not following those protocols did not affect her conclusions. But from the defense's point of view, it's just one more reason to question how much the jury should trust or not trust this witness, right? And the entire investigation.
It starts with there were 2 searches of interest that took place on the iOS device, and we're talking about Jennifer McCabe's device, correct?
The device that was identified to me as Jennifer McCabe's. Yes.
That's identified to you as Jennifer McCabe. And it's what you talked about on direct examination as
Absolutely,
her device, right?
yes.
It's not a mystery as to whose it is. It's not like you don't know, right?
In direct, I also use the phrase identified to me as Jennifer McCabe's.
Right, but your conclusion is the device you've been working on and analyzing for 2 years is the device of Jennifer McCabe.
That is how it was identified to me.
Do you have a different conclusion as to whose device it is?
I always am very, very careful that I did not assess the ownership. That was information that was given to me, not information that I personally assessed.
So are you uncertain as to whether the device you've been working on for 2 years is the phone of Jennifer McCabe?
The device that I have been working on for 2 years is the device that was identified to me by the Massachusetts State Police, Detective Tolley, as belonging to Jennifer McCabe when I began working and received that device, as stated in the evidence analyzed section on this same page.
And you testified, we cannot tell by this particular artifact what time that search occurred. Did
Absolutely.
I read that correctly?
Specifically pertaining to that particular artifact that in Browser State DB, that does not tell us what time a search occurred. That is correct.
Right. So you stated, and it was your statement then, we cannot tell by this particular artifact what time that search occurred, correct?
That particular artifact.
Okay, so now let's keep going.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to page 129 of this transcript,
I'm there.
at the top,
Sure.
line 1, 227 isn't necessarily one time when the tab was closed. That's in my report. I say it's undetermined. Remember we were just reading your undetermined
Absolutely.
in your May 23 report?
Correct.
Because there's a lot of things that can cause that time stamp to be there, including tab being moved, tab being minimized. The next sentence. I don't know exactly what caused the tab to get that particular entry, but it's not, that timestamp is not indicative of the time of the search or any URL that's visited. But the first part of it is, I don't know exactly what caused the tab to get that particular entry. Did I read that correctly?
You read 100% correctly.
Thank you.
Their exchange got so tense that Judge Cannoni had to step in again and call a sidebar. And not long after that, Jessica Hyde was dismissed from the stand. Then, just before the jury left for the day, the Commonwealth played yet another clip of Karen Read giving media interviews. This one was a clip from the HBO documentary, A Body in the Snow.
Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe, it's me or her. Either I'm going down, Jen, or you are.
That moment landed hard. After the day concluded, Karen Read told reporters outside the courthouse that the prosecution is cherry-picking and that context is coming. She says the jury is going to hear the full story once the defense begins its case. So here's where we stand. Jessica Hyde's testimony backs up the state's timeline. And Judge Cannoni, she says the trial is slightly ahead of schedule, a signal that the prosecution may be nearing the end of its case, which is wild since there is still no sign of Brian Albert or Brian Higgins or Michael Proctor, the lead investigator who was jettisoned from his job. But they are coming. You can feel it. We'll be back on Thursday for day 12. And until then, I'm Ashleigh Banfield. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. And remember, the truth isn't just serious. It's drop dead serious.